Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Cindie Chavez here. Today is Wednesday, March 21st, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, your first daily dose of happy for the day. And we are happily expecting a non-event. That's what we're hoping for here in the Northeast. There's a major snowstorm passing through, another nor'easter, as they're called. The fourth one of March. I mean, they're just coming flying through here. But the last one, Cindie, we only got 2 inches. We were supposed to get up to 18. I'm going to put out there that we're not going to get any inches because spring is here. We want it to be spring. How's that?
Well, put it out there. I know you have success with this area. So when is it supposed to hit, or when are they? Is that this week? This week now?
It's supposed to be today. Yeah. I mean,
okay.
This has actually been one of those storms where they couldn't make up their mind in the lead up to it. Like last Friday or Saturday, we were supposed to get 8 to 10 inches, and then by Sunday it was gone from the radar. And then by Monday it was back, and now it's supposed to be 4 to 8 inches. It's like all over the map. Just...
Okay, well that's why I asked, because I'm thinking that the last time, well, not the last time, because the last podcast you and I did was yesterday, but before that it's been a week, and I thought that we were thinking one was coming to you last weekend, and I was like, wait a minute, I got confused there. So
no, it was
okay.
It was actually on the day that we did it last week, on Wednesday. That was the day of the previous storm, and that was the one where we were told it was going to be somewhere between 2 inches and 18 inches. We didn't know exactly where. Well, it was 2 inches. That's what it actually worked out to. Yeah. So I figured, well, if we can get it down to 2 inches, why can't we get it down to 0?
Hey, I think you can.
I think we can. The only question is, I'm not the only person who's putting stuff out there. So if there are a whole bunch of other people out there saying, oh, God, it's going to be snowing today. I can't believe the snow is not going away. It's spring already. Why do we have to keep having snow? Probably my efforts aren't going to be as effective as they could be.
I was actually thinking about this yesterday after the podcast. I was thinking about the weather and, things that we may desire to manipulate or change, and that don't just affect us, mm-hmm. and you're talking about like people that are having resistance against it and grumbling about it and focusing on it and talking about it. And then what about all those kids that want a snow day and want to get their sled out, and they're doing the positive law of attraction of like imagining themselves on the little sled, right? So
they're doing the snow dance, right?
So there's so much going on that when we try to, change something that affects everyone, which that might be everything, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
It can get complicated.
It does. It gets very complicated. The thing I always try to remember and to remind myself is I can influence the weather. I can't change it by myself because of this very factor, the fact that other people are just as influential as I am. But just because I can't absolutely change it every time doesn't mean I can't influence it. And indeed I can. The times when I'm influencing it are the times when, for whatever reason, people aren't focusing on it as much. And that's when I get the biggest change.
I believe that our influence and our ability to influence is, just like you just said, it's affected by what's going on around us with other people. So
exactly. Yeah.
All we can do, it comes back to one of those situations that all we can do is be responsible for our own vibration and our own. And sometimes, that's enough.
Well, it is. And even in times where there is the counter activity going on out there, I have at least 2 or 3 different weather stories where there was a major weather pattern going on except right over me.
I was just going to say, what if, because you're kind of attaching this to like, we really want to get the gardening business going. You need it to be more than just your house, right?
That's true. Yes, we need it for all of our customers' houses too. So
yes, the neighborhood.
And yet I've done it for my own house, so why not? It can be done.
So funny. Strange weather pattern where it's only your customers that have a beautiful springtime yard and everyone else has 18 inches of snow.
Well, you know what influenced me on this was the first time I heard Esther Hicks's story about it. The one where she looks outside her home in Texas. I think she was in Texas at the time. And
when they were having a drought.
They had the drought, right, the drought conditions. And she was bemoaning the fact that the animals didn't have anything to drink and the plants were parched and everything was looking brown. And Abraham says to her, so you think you can attract rain from that position of lack?
Right. Right.
And she says, well, what should I do instead? Well, why do you want the rain? Well, I want the rain so that it'll, the animals will have something to drink, and so that the plants will be lush and green, and so that what was brown will turn green, and so that it'll become beautiful again. Now you're attracting rain, they said. And I took that story to heart and started to apply it and found, yeah, it really does work. Yeah, oh, and by the way, the P.S. to that story is that later on that day they did get rain, and that evening in the news reported a freak thunderstorm out in a certain part of the valley.
Right, so over Esther's house.
Just in that one place.
Right. That's the weird weather pattern. It's like weird weather patterns happening here. Yeah, that's
that
great.
Was so funny. So,
that's great.
So how have you been? I mean, since yesterday, anything exciting or new or interesting happening?
Well, yeah, and so I this kind of ties in with what we're talking about too, in a way. Two things. So we've been reading the Money and Law of Attraction book,
right?
And I started doing the I Feel Rich.
Yes, right.
Mantra or affirmation. I feel rich. Okay, so two things happened, and one of them was those like Nigerian prince email scams.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, we got a one in the physical mail.
Really? Oh, that's unusual.
And it was supposed to be from, same last name. Is supposed to be from a relative in Canada and this letter is from this person that works for the bank, but there were like misspellings in the letter. I mean, it was so obvious that it was a scam, right? And it was so funny. I mean, we were like, what? He was like, this cracked me up because of course he was, joking, but he was like, well, in this day with everything being digital and so much high technology, it's just good and refreshing to see someone doing an old-fashioned scam.
An old-fashioned scam. I love it.
Okay, so that happened. And then last night at dinner, I opened my fortune cookie, and the fortune said, a new source of revenue is coming your way.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, so I bring these up. The first one because it's something that me and some of the people I know, I refer to as driftwood. And it came from Florence Scovel Shinn's idea of signs of land. So when you're out on the ocean and all you can see is, the horizon line, you can't see any land. It's just water everywhere. When you start to get closer to land, you'll start to see twigs and sticks and birds and driftwood. And even though you can't see the land, the sailors recognize it's on the way. And so one of the things that I like to remind myself and others is that sometimes when we start focusing on a particular thing we want to consciously create, we will see driftwood. And what I mean by that is like, and we get upset about it. It's like, oh, here I am trying to manifest money and all I get is a stupid scam letter in the mail.
Yeah, right.
Right. Or someone that says, someone that's been trying to manifest a relationship. And then I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Bridget Jones' Diary, but there's a scene of her and she's sad and depressed because she doesn't have a relationship, and she's laying on the couch, with the bucket of ice cream and watching TV, and every channel she goes to, it's like a nature show of animals, having sex, and it's like people like, making out, and it's like she just can't get away from like all of these scenes of people in love and people happy and dancing, and it's that time that you're really focused on the relationship. And then, your best friend calls and, oh my gosh, I just got engaged. And then someone else says, oh, I have a date. And that is what we call driftwood. So I always say, look, when you start noticing, don't go down that road of like, everyone's getting what I want but me. Go down the road of, oh my gosh, I've been focusing on things and the universe is starting to show it to me everywhere. And so when we got the letter, I said, I just yelled out like, this is driftwood, baby. I feel rich.
That's fantastic.
Right. And then the fortune, it's like, okay, it's like a new source of revenue is coming my way soon. That's like, so I count those as wins, even though technically I could come at it from the other standpoint and be like, yeah, right.
Well, sure. You could be taking the perception that what others would call driftwood, you would call a sign that you're in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle and that you just passed a shipwreck. You can look at it either way. The question is which way you're going to choose to look at it, and you choose to look at it in the right way. I think the positive way, the way that says, this is actually a sign of things to come, and they're going to be good things. And of course, because you think they're going to be good things, they are going to be good things.
I told this story one time, I think in an article that I wrote in, and I had a reader reply to me, and I loved the story that she told me because she said there was a time when she was looking for an apartment, and she went to see this particular apartment, and she said, and this person was had a master's degree in library science and some other things, about her, that when she went to this apartment, a beautiful, quaint little apartment that actually had a library, like a tiny library on one side. Ooh. And she said there were all these things, but it had rented already. I think while she was looking at it, the woman got the thumbs up that yes, the other person had rented it or something. So, and she said her immediate reaction was, "Oh, I must be getting really close."
Oh, very nice.
And yeah, that just brought a big smile to my face, because how many people would just be completely heartbroken and disappointed that, oh, here we go again. I found the perfect place and I didn't get it. Mm-hmm. And yet she just said, without even thinking much about it, she immediately got the response, "Ooh, I'm getting really close to finding the perfect place. Like, I'm close." And I thought that's stellar.
It is. That's a terrific reaction, and it's a deliberate reaction. It's not one that you come to accidentally. You have to consciously make it.
And, we were talking earlier, and I think that that's exactly it, though, is that she consciously focused and developed the ability to the point that now she does sort of have that reaction spontaneously. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like me getting the letter from the scam and me saying, "That's driftwood, baby."
That's right.
That's the first reaction. So it's just getting into that place where that becomes the dominant vibration.
Which is great.
It affects our responses and our reactions to things.
It does. In fact, that's part of the thinking behind a modification that I've made to my mirror work. Because I am now on, let's see, which day am I on now? It's Wednesday, so that means 32? I am on, I think I'm on it's day 32. You're right. 29, 30, 30. Yes, day 32. And amazing. Which is in and of itself a miracle. I mean, I normally am not really good at sticking with programs like this, and here I am, day 32 of something that I would have thought originally was too hard to do, because that first day is, looking in my own eyes and saying, "I love you" in the mirror. Yeah, right, that ain't going to happen. Well, it did, and I did manage to keep it going. Well, today I decided to add a new aspect to it, because for the longest time I've really been aware of how easily I am distracted whenever I try to do something with deliberate creation. Like early on, I wanted to eliminate the negativity from my thinking and focus on positives. And so I would focus on a positive for all of 5 seconds and then lose my attention, lose my focus, and say, "Wow, that's the best I can do, 5 seconds?" Really? But I stuck with it, and over time it's gotten better and better. And yet, even though it's gotten better and better, I still want that laser focus. I want that focus that is so effortless, but I just put it on whatever it is I want to focus on, and I just stay there for as long as I want to be there. It doesn't matter what distractions come along. They don't penetrate. They don't get through. I just stay on that focus. Because I know once I can get there, then truly the kingdom is mine. Then truly I will be able to manifest as fast as I want at anything. I just need to get there and stay there and be consistent. And if I can do that, it's all going to happen. All right, well, there's the goal. Now, how do I get there? How do I get that laser focus? Well, I've included it in my mirror work. So now part of my mirror work starting today is not only to do the I love you part and the cheerleading part, but also to say, now we're going to be really focusing on focus. We're going to, starting today, everything that we focus on, we're going to be able to hold as long as we want to hold it consciously. You and I, Mr. Person in the mirror that I'm talking to, we're going to hold that focus. And it's not going to be hard. It's going to be very easy. It's just going to happen easily because we choose to make it happen. We choose for it to happen. It's going to be effortless. It's going to be simple, and it's going to be consistent. And every single thing that we focus on, we're going to hold our focus. Doesn't matter what the distractions are. Doesn't matter who's trying to get our attention. As long as we want to hold that focus, we're going to hold it.
I love this. It just reminds me of, what I do the moment I wake up. As I ask myself with my eyes still shut, I'm grateful for being awake, and what kind of a day do I want to have? How do I want to feel? What would I like to accomplish? And so I believe it really has set me up to create my day. And that's exactly what you're doing here with focus. I love this.
Yeah. I'm really
You're
anxious
like
to see how
programming the software to
Yeah, exactly. In a big way, much bigger way than I've ever done before. And I'm really anxious to see how this is going to work out because I've already told you how the negative self-talk is drastically reduced in volume. And I think I can even report now that not only has the volume decreased, but the frequency has decreased.
Oh, wow.
I've been noticing that the last couple of days especially, the frequency of the negative self-talk is a lot less than it was. So it's working. Thank you, Jack Canfield, and thank you, Cindy, for telling me about what Jack did.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
very,
it's really good
very
stuff.
exciting. And I'm really excited to see, 30 days from now, what the focus is like for you.
Me too.
Because even when you were talking about it, even when you were like giving us the example of what you were saying in the mirror, it was so sharp and laser focused.
Oh, good. That means I'm on the right track.
That's the sense I got was like, oh my gosh, like I think he's already there. So it seems like it will just start showing up for you that you'll start recognizing how focused you are.
I think that may actually be the case. I'm looking forward to it because, to be honest, it's kind of new territory from my perspective, from the way I feel about stuff. So to actually consciously experience that level of focus whenever I want it, to me, that's going to be major league empowerment.
Well, I recognize that I watch some people that I'm close to in my life, and not saying that women can't be laser focused. I think anybody can be laser focused, but men, because of men's brain structure, have singular focus and are very, it's why men are so good at throwing a ball to the mitt, right? Is that their actual vision, like women have greater peripheral vision. Women see more colors. Women have more connectors in the corpus callosum, so right brain to left brain. So we actually are a little bit better at multitasking, but the men have got the focus aspect. They've got the advantage there and can really, really drill down and focus on something. And it always amazes me to watch. And when I think of the people in my life that I've seen do this, they've all been men, but it's just like, wow, when they are focused on a certain thing, it's like they don't even, everything around them disappears.
Well,
and I think that
men was certainly
can
news to me.
multitask and women can focus. I'm not saying that
Sure.
doesn't happen. But when you think about what you're doing, where you're taking, an attribute that you have, that I think we all have to some degree, and then just honing it down. It's like you're sharpening that sword.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
That's just really exciting.
Well, apparently, even if I'm a male and have that advantage, apparently I wasn't using it because early on my attention span was 5 seconds. So it isn't a given. It isn't automatic. You have to work it one way or another. And I actually think everybody does have it. Maybe there is something to the thing that men have an easier time with it. I don't know. Perhaps.
Well, it's and even in work. That's one of the reasons why it's so important for us to find out what gets us excited, right? What turns us on, what our passion is, because those things we have an easier time focusing on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's why I think we really all do have the ability to do it. Maybe it's a little bit quicker and easier for a man to do it. But hey, we're all starting from the same, 0 point. I mean, my 0 point was 5 seconds of attention span. That's not a whole lot.
And we live in a world that's got a bazillion things going on.
Oh, geez, so. It's ridiculous. We were talking about it before the show. No, it wasn't. But we were talking before the show how much of a premium our society places on multitasking, which is really a dumb thing to do. Because, like you were saying to me, the studies all show that nobody ever produces more by multitasking. And in fact, they show we actually produce less. We're less efficient when we multitask. And yet, society, bosses, companies, they place this tremendous ability. Oh, if you have the ability to multitask and handle this and then this and this and this and this, we want you. And boy, are they crazy. They're just absolutely insane.
Yeah, yesterday we ran into somebody in the grocery store that we knew, and we had this long conversation that went in many directions, but I don't know how we got to this one point. But she was talking about no one has time for anything. She said she was telling somebody to buy a certain kind of oatmeal, and they said, "Oh, I don't have time to make oatmeal." And she said, "It takes 5 minutes."
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right, so
it reminds me of... I got one more little analogy. It reminds me of the Industrial Revolution, and particularly the Industrial Revolution in regard to specialization of activities that like the assembly line that Henry Ford developed. And I'm not saying everybody does better if they're working on an assembly line. That's not the point. The point is that when they were able to focus on doing one task repeatedly, they were more efficient at it. Amazing today that today's companies have lost that lesson. Just amazing to me. I mean, there's one of the most successful developments in the entire history of the Industrial Revolution, and you would think that modern companies had never heard of it. Figure that one out.
Because we're more focused on how many things can we do at once.
How many plates can we get going, spinning at the same time?
Yeah.
Like that's a virtue, Oh, well. Anyway, sorry, that's a little negative. We'll get off that.
Well, that's interesting that you said it's a little negative, because we're going to start with a section. My universe is positively and negatively balanced.
True.
But before we launch in, I wanted to see if you had any announcements.
Announcements. Oh, yes. Well, we always have a few of those. First, want to let people know the book is coming along. It's about 66%, about two-thirds edited so far. And I'm really on a push right now to finish the editing part so we can get this thing out. So it is coming. It's coming very soon. Another reminder that we are now doing the Sunday podcast at 8 p.m. instead of a morning podcast for a couple of reasons. One, because it encourages people to call in. We had our first caller on Sunday. That was really cool. And secondly, because it gives Louise and I a chance to go off and do things on the weekend, because we can't do that if we're doing a podcast in the middle of the day. It doesn't work too well. But yeah, from now on, the Sunday podcast with David Bartkey is at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, so be sure to change your schedule. It's already on the schedule of the homepage. And then finally, just a reminder, if you have not yet subscribed to the podcast, those who have subscribed are loving it because they're downloading it in record numbers. Would you believe, Cindy, this month, the average listener, based on unique IP address, the average listener of the show has downloaded 36 podcasts this month. 36. Oh,
wow. I remember when that number was 20.
Yeah, 36. So subscribing is really, really worth your time because it's your way of making sure that you get every single podcast we do right onto your smartphone so you can play them whenever it's appropriate for you to play them and you know what your schedule is. And the best part is it's really easy to subscribe. All the instructions are right on the homepage of the website at loatoday.net. So just go there. You'll see how it's done. And as we say, we want you to subscribe and share because once you've subscribed, we want you to share with your friends through social media and such. Hey, I just subscribed to LOA Today. You ought to check it out. It's pretty good stuff. So there's the announcements for this morning.
Awesome. Thank you, Walt.
You're welcome.
All right. So we are continuing our book study of the book Money and the Law of Attraction, Learning to Attract Wealth, Health, and Happiness, Esther and Jerry Hicks. And in the paperback version, I think Walt's reading it on Kindle. I've got the paperback in front of me, and we're starting in the middle of page 44. And I'm excited about this little segment. It's called My Universe is Positively and Negatively Balanced.
It's a good one.
So you are the creator of your experience. Or you could say that you are the attractor of your experience. Creating is not about identifying something wanted and then going after it and capturing it. Creating is about focusing upon the subject of desire, tuning your thoughts more precisely to the aspects of the subject that you would like to experience, and therefore allowing the law of attraction to bring it to you. Here we are on focusing already, Walt.
Yeah, right.
Whether you are remembering something from the past, imagining something about the future, excuse me, or observing something from your now, you are offering thought vibrations that the law of attraction is responding to. You may refer to your thoughts as desires or beliefs. A belief is only a thought you continue to think. But whatever you are giving your attention to is establishing your point of attraction. Because every subject is actually two subjects, what is wanted and the lack of what is wanted. It is possible to believe that you are positively focused when in fact you are negatively focused. People may say, I want more money, but what they're actually focused upon is the fact that they do not have as much money as they need. Most people talk most often about their desire to be healthy when they are feeling sick. In other words, their attention to what they do not want is what is prompting their remarks about what they do want. But in the majority of cases, even though they may be speaking words that seem to indicate that they are focused upon their desire, they are not. And now this little section's in italics. It's only by consciously recognizing how you are feeling while you are speaking that you really know if you are positively or negatively attracting. And while you may not see immediate evidence of what you are in the process of attracting, whatever you are thinking about is amassing matching thoughts, vibrations, and energies, and eventually the evidence of your attraction will be obvious.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite sections of any of the books, actually, because of the fact that it points out something that I didn't realize until it was pointed out to me. Because we all think that there are positive things, things that we like, and there are negative things, things that we don't like. And that when we're focusing on the things that we do like, we're focusing on a positive, and when we're focusing on the things we don't like, we're focusing on a negative. That seems very straightforward. But they're proposing a completely different idea here. And that is, it is possible to believe that you are positively focused when in fact you are negatively focused. And my mind hears that and says, what? How is that possible?
And they say it's the feelings, right?
Well, they say it's the feelings, but they also say it's the focus on the fact that every subject is actually two subjects. It is what is wanted and the lack of what is wanted. The lack of what is wanted is the true opposite negative of the positive thing that is wanted. And we don't really think of it that way normally. We normally think that, well, you know, okay, what I want is $1 million, so what I don't want is to not be poor, right? But in fact, when you're focusing on the lack of what is wanted, it's just as if you're focusing on poverty. So if you're focusing on, I don't have $1 million, it's the exact same thing as focusing on poverty. And we don't think about it that way. But that's literally the truth. That's literally the way it actually works.
Where it says it's only by consciously recognizing how you are feeling while you are speaking that you really know. And that's interesting because picking that sentence apart, consciously recognizing.
Yes.
So it's paying attention and having an awareness. This is something that coaches do, good coaches do all the time. And that is when you speak to someone, you're not just listening to the words that are coming out of their mouth, but you're also listening to what you sense they're feeling. So it's like when someone says, you know, how's it going today? And someone says, it's going really, really well. You know, and yeah, well, you're not hearing really, really well, right? You're just like, how are you? Great. And that's what this reminds me of. It's like when we're like, I really, really want more money, but the thought is feeling bad because I'm still feeling bad about how little money I have, but my words are saying I want more. It's when we get excited, the feeling changes and we start focusing on not just, that's why this whole question that we learned in the pivot process about questioning why do you want it? Mm-hmm. What would you do with it? What will it bring to you? When we get on that road, we've left the focus on the poverty road, right?
That's right. Yes. And in fact, it's the why road that is our route out of the trap of saying something positive and feeling negative about it.
Exactly, because that's when the feelings really start changing. You can hear it in someone's voice when they're talking about it. When you were talking about the mirror work and the focus, it was like you were in such alignment because the energy and the words matched.
Which is good. That means I'm on the right track.
Yeah. Okay, so the next section, my universe responds to my attention to ... Most people believe or want to believe that everything in the universe responds to their words in the same way that other people around them can sometimes be trained to behave.
Trained to behave. I love that phrase.
When you tell someone, yes, come to me, you expect them to come. When you say, no, go away from me, you expect them to go. But you live in an attraction-based universe, an inclusion-based universe, which simply means there is no such thing as no.
There's an eye-opener right there. There's no such thing as no. That's going to hit some people across the side of the head.
Right. So we're always saying yes to something, right?
Yeah, right.
When you give your attention to something wanted and you say, yes, come to me, you include it in your vibration and the law of attraction begins the process of bringing it. But when you look at something unwanted and you say, no, I do not want you, go away, the universe brings that also. Your attention to it, and therefore your vibrational alignment with it, is what is causing the response, not your words. And so as you say, perfect health, I seek you, I want you, I bask in the idea of perfect health, you are attracting health. But as you say sickness, I do not want you, you are attracting sickness. As you say, no, 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 it is coming closer, closer, closer. Because the more you struggle against something that you do not want, the more engulfed in it you become. People often believe that once they find their perfect mate or achieve their perfect body weight or accumulate enough money, then once and for all, they will also find the happiness that they seek. But nowhere is there a little corner of something where only positive aspects exist. The perfect balance of the universe says that the positive and negative, wanted and unwanted, exists in all parts of the universe. When you, as the creator, the chooser, the definer, the decider, look for the positive aspect, that becomes what you live in all aspects of your life. You do not have to wait around for that perfect thing to show itself to you so that you can then have a positive response to it. Instead, you positively train your thoughts and vibrations, and then you become the attractor of it or the creator of it. We would encourage you to begin each day with the statement, today, no matter where I go, no matter what I am doing, and no matter who I am doing it with, it is my dominant intent to look for what I am wanting to see. Remember, when you awaken in the morning, you are reborn. While you have slumbered, all attraction has stopped. That sequestering away for a few hours of sleep where your consciousness is no longer attracting gives you a refreshing new beginning. And so unless you wake up in the morning and begin regurgitating what troubled you the day before, it will not trouble you in your new day, in your new birth, in your new beginning.
Which is reassuring. But the simple thing, it is. It's very reassuring. It's like, oh, good, I get a fresh start every day. That's good. But this section is so full of juicy meat that we would be doing a disservice to it if we just kind of skipped through it, because it's just
no,
loaded.
I agree. I was thinking that the whole time I was reading it, I was like, wow, 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 wow.
I actually tried to stop you at one point. And I said, no, let it go. Just make sure we get back to it. That's all.
Yeah, well, it's funny, talking about, no, I do not want it, go away. Reminded me of you talking about all the people that may be like resisting the snow.
Yes, exactly.
There it comes.
Yep, there it is. More you resist it. Who was it? Carl Jung, who said, "What we resist persists."
Yes.
He was absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
So what stood out to you, Walt?
Well, that was the first one that stood out, and what goes along with it is, well, what if you definitely don't want something? How do you keep it away? No doesn't keep it away. How do you keep it away?
Well, I think that we have to always use that as the pivot point to figure out what we do want and focus on that, right? I mean, if I'm always saying yes to something, then I need to be saying yes to the things that I want.
Yeah, I think that's it.
According to this, there is no. We can't say no to something.
Yeah, really, the most you can do is to just don't focus on it at all. Pay no attention. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Well, that's the truth, though, is that when there are lots of things, many things, the number is too big for me to name, that we don't pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
We filter it out. And those things don't bother us because we're not paying attention. We don't even notice them. And this is where your laser focus comes in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true. By the way, this reminds me, the book that you very graciously gave me when you first came on the show, E Squared by Pam Grout, it has that one little factoid in it that she doesn't actually document where she got it from, but I found where she got it from. It's the It's the factoid that says that we have something like, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I'm going to say it's something like 2 billion pieces of data that come into our senses at every second or every time period, whatever it is. But we can only process about 5,000 of them, so we can process like 1/2 of 1/millionth of 1% of them. Right. And I wondered, where did that come from? I found it. I found where it came from. It came from the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? That's where she got it from. Now, what I don't know is where the movie got it from, but it's almost word for word right out of that movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so, it kind of reminds me, have you ever been, it's like reading a book or watching a movie or making a painting or just totally engrossed in some activity, working on a computer where something's happening, maybe somebody's speaking to you and you just don't even hear them. Mm-hmm. And it's like, something's going on and someone says, "Didn't you hear that?" And you're like, "No, I didn't even notice it. I was just," why? Because we're totally laser focused on a certain thing. So it's kind of like that. We have to be in that spot when we get to that spot where we're so focused on what we want that the things we don't want aren't an issue. And that's hard. It's definitely not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing when you don't have enough money in the bank. It's not an easy thing when your body hurts and you're in pain.
Right.
It's not an easy thing when you've had your heart broken or, you really want a companion and you're feeling lonely. I mean, those are human experiences that are painful. And I certainly am the last person that ever make light of them and think, "Oh, just stop focusing on that." It's not always that easy.
No.
But the pivot has been really useful for me anyway.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's very useful. And the whole thing about focus, that's why I really want to develop this laser focus, because if I can learn to do it now when I'm not dealing with some sort of a major life-changing issue and I'm getting hammered with all the negative consequences of it, if I can learn the laser focus now, then if and when something like that does come, I'm prepared for it. I'm ready for it. That's why I want to study it right now in my mirror work.
And that's why I love this sentence in the last section we read where it says, you do not have to wait around for that perfect thing to show itself to you so that you can then have a positive response to it. Instead, you positively train your thoughts and vibrations, and then you become the attractor of it or the creator of it. So this phrase, you positively train your thoughts and vibrations. Have you ever trained a puppy?
I've never had a puppy, so I can't say that I have, no.
It is a lot of work. Right? I mean, that's why this stood out to me. It's you positively train your thoughts and vibrations. It's like what you're doing in the mirror. Mm-hmm. It takes dedication.
It does.
You can't train a puppy in 10 minutes. It takes time.
And dedication. You can't? Oh, no.
Yeah, you really can't. It takes time and dedication and consistency. But you know what? One day, it's like the puppy's trained. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, good dog, right?
Yeah, right.
That's what we want to do with our mental focus, with our thoughts and vibrations. We want to have some dedication and commitment and take the time and be consistent about it. And then we will become the attractor.
And I have to say, that's the reason I like doing it with the mirror work. Something that I thought I would never do, mirror work. But here I am actually doing it and enjoying the fact that I can use it in a big way, because the mirror work is actually a great opportunity to do the training. And I didn't know that before. I mean, when you first told me that Jack Canfield had used it to get rid of self-talk, negative self-talk rather, that was my only focus. I was like, okay, great, yeah, that's good. Sign me up. I'm ready to try it. It never occurred to me that it would be a tremendously powerful vehicle for training myself to positively change my mind in whatever way I want to change it, including learning how to focus.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, I can see such success with you and the mirror work that every time you talk about it, I get excited and think, okay, I need to create a committed practice with this. Because, because I'm hearing not just in your words, I hear the results in your vibration. And it's like, yeah, why am I not doing this? I mean, I have done mirror work, but I've never done 32 days of it in a row. I mean, and that might be all the difference.
It could be.
Right?
Yeah.
I can say, no, I've done it. I've trained the puppy. Never more than one day.
Right.
Maybe I did it 4 days. Well, you can't train a puppy in 4 days. And believe me, our mind is like that little puppy that wants to run all over the place.
Oh, yeah. It's quite undisciplined.
So I'm excited and hearing you talk about it. That's the training. That's where we have to be with this. If we really want to be successful creators and attractors, we need to be consistent and committed and dedicated to some kind of practice. I mean, I'm convinced of that.
And I think you're right. I mean, I didn't really notice until you pointed it out that I did have this level of conviction and intensity and high vibration in my voice. I was just saying what I believed. But now that I kind of play it back in my head based on what you told me, I agree. Yeah, you're right. I do have that in there. And I now understand where it comes from. It comes from the training. That's literally where it came from. I didn't when I sat here and started telling you this story and started laying out how I'm starting to do it and getting into it and feeling like it could actually get me somewhere. I didn't do that with the intention of saying, well, I'm going to show how confident I am. That was the last thing on my mind. It was the benefit that came with it. The confidence came with it. It was not my intention of I'm going to be very, very confident about this. That was not part of my plan at all. It was the side effect, but it's a wonderful side effect.
Right. It's just the natural result of it.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we can all have that. So that's why I'm excited.
And the simple fact is we all learn things differently. I mean, I can't tell you how many things I've gone through that didn't work for me that worked perfectly for others. And I'm sure they didn't work because I didn't give them full attention that they deserve. But by the same token, I also knew myself. I tried doing journaling. And I lose my attention on that real fast, and I have no desire to go back to it. Well, clearly then journaling isn't the right one for me. It's not the right vehicle. And it doesn't have to be. There are a lot of vehicles. You just have to try the vehicles to find which ones work for you. For me, it turns out that the mirror work is good, and it turns out that my positive music list that I listen to is good, and it turns out that my walks are good. The only way I could find that out was just by trying all of them.
Which reminds me of the idea that you told me from the school. And I can't remember the type of school, the Montessori school? No, different kind of school.
It's called the Sudbury School.
Sudbury School. But it was the idea of try it. It reminds me of what some coaches in the business world would say, fail fast.
Yeah, fail fast.
But, try it and let go of it.
Yeah.
Try something else, let go of it. If you don't like it, try it again. And instead of just thinking, I don't think I'd like that.
And you also have to drop the moniker that it's trial and error. It's never trial and error. It's trial and reject.
Yes. So I like the idea of that. And yes, that is how we find the things that work for us. And there's also the idea that we have to have some level of commitment to, like you said, the first day of mirror work was, oh my gosh.
It was really rough.
What if you would have said, yeah, that didn't work for me?
I could have.
Because I mean, I can totally see that possibility as well. You're like, yeah, I've done it for a couple of days. I really hate it. It's not working for me. I'm just not going to do this. But you kept up with it. And when I hear you talk about it now, it's totally not like something that you're hating, right? It's like something you're really fired up about. And
yeah, I've gotten to the point where I enjoy it. Yeah, no doubt. It's true.
So it's great.
Yeah. And I know what made the difference in terms of an abstract concept of what makes the difference. on those occasions where I tried something and gave up on them, I didn't have that little bit of spark in me that said, I want to see something through.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have that little spark there. And that's why I say you have to try all of them, because you have to see which one gives you that spark the best. And the only way to know that is just by trying them. It doesn't really matter if you find one that you reject. That's okay. It's okay to reject it. You're allowed to do that. The goal, though, is to find what stimulates you. The goal is to find which one, when you try it, has a certain small degree of resonance. And if it has some resonance, then you give it a little more of a try. Maybe give it another day or 3 or 4 days or something like that. But you have to try it. And
thankfully, there are so many processes.
Oh, there are dozens of them.
Like, there is one that will work for you, or 2 or 3.
Yeah, I don't think it's even just one. You're right. I think it is at least 2 or 3. I think there are a bunch that work for us. We just have to figure out which ones they are.
So was there something else in that section that really stood out that you don't want us to miss? Because I don't want to skip over anything.
Well, I think we hit the biggest ones. I like the one section where they said, we would encourage you to begin each day with a statement. Today, no matter where I go, no matter what I am doing, no matter who I'm doing it with, it is my dominant intent to look for what I am wanting to see. Yes. And what we're talking about here, I think, ties in directly to what we just talked about, which is finding, the modality, the method, the activity to do to help us develop whatever it is we're trying to develop, whatever we're trying to train our brains to do. Well, the way you do that is by looking for it. You have to have that dominant intent to look for what you want to see. And if you have that dominant intent, that's that spark that I just mentioned. That little thing, that little spark of interest, that's what it is. It's having that dominant intent of wanting to see something and looking for it until you find it, until you see it.
Until you find it, right?
Yeah.
Right. So it's my dominant intent to look for what I'm wanting to see. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important.
So, I think this next section is going to tell us a story, and stories are powerful.
We love stories here on LOA Today.
Decisions to feel good attract good feelings. So that goes right back to what you just said.
Right.
That statement. It's my dominant intent to look for what I want to see. The decision to feel good will attract more good feelings. A woman said to us, I recently found out that I'm going to be attending 3 or 4 holiday parties. And as soon as I heard that, I started thinking, oh, Mary's going to be there and she's going to be gorgeous.
Oh, dear.
I started immediately comparing myself to other people. I'd like to stop doing that and feel good about me and just enjoy the parties no matter who's there. Could you help me apply the process of pivoting and positive aspects regarding my self-consciousness? I really don't even want to attend these parties. We explained, while your feeling of self-consciousness is amplified as you consider your attendance of these parties, neither the party nor Mary is the reason for your discomfort. It often seems complicated to sort out your relationships with other people, even tracing the beginning of these feelings back into your childhood, but there's no value in doing that. You have the ability, from right where you stand, to find positive aspects or negative aspects, to think of the wanted or unwanted. And whether you begin the process right now or several days before you attend your first party, or whether you wait until you're at the party, the work is the same. Look for things that feel good when you focus upon them. Because you have more control over what is activated in your own mind, it's usually much easier to find the positive aspect of a situation before you are standing right in the middle of it. If you do imagine the situation as you want it to be, and you do practice your positive response to the upcoming situation, then when you're at the party, you will witness the control that you set into motion days before. And this part's in italics, so I think it's like, I always think that saying, pay attention to this part.
Absolutely.
You cannot feel good and bad at the same time. You cannot focus upon wanted and unwanted at the same time. If you have trained your thoughts to what you consider to be good or wanted before you arrive at a party, the law of attraction will deliver to you things that feel good and are wanted. It's really as simple as that. If you want to feel different at these upcoming parties than you have felt at parties in previous years, you must begin telling a different story. The story you've been telling goes something like this. I'm only invited to these parties because of my relationship with my mate. It really isn't important to anyone that I be there. I'm not really a part of his work environment, and I don't really understand most of the things that they're interested in. I'm an outsider. Mary doesn't feel like an outsider like I do. Her confidence is obvious in the way she dresses and carries herself. I always feel less attractive, less smart, less everything when I'm near Mary. I hate this feeling. I hate feeling like this. I wish I didn't have to go.
I wouldn't want to go after that one.
Right? Ooh. Here, none of us want to go now.
No.
Here is an example of an attempt at a better feeling story. My mate is well respected at his firm. It's nice that his company occasionally provides an opportunity for people who work there to include their spouses and to get to know one another. No one there expects me to be up to speed with the inner workings of that environment. In fact, this will be a party where they will probably enjoy thinking about other things than about work. Life is much larger than what happens at my husband's office. And since I'm never there, I may very well appear to be a breath of fresh air to many of them because I'm not bogged down in the things they're troubled about. Mary seems light and friendly. She's clearly not bogged down in office politics or problems. It's fun to watch her. She's interesting. I wonder where she buys her clothing. They're very pretty things, the things she wears. You see, it's not necessary that you sort out every insecurity that you have ever felt and use this office party as a means to solve it. I love that. Just find something positive to focus upon and feel the benefit of having done so. And in time, Mary will be a non-issue or maybe a friend. But in any case, it's your decision to make and your vibrational practice to make it so. I think that's a great story and a great example, especially because there are so many of us who at least sometimes experience some kind of social anxiety about going to some event.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in a big way. There's actually something in there that may rub people the wrong way, and I want to address it because it's really rather important. Early on, it says, it often seems complicated to sort out your relationships with other people, even tracing the beginning of those feelings back into your childhood, but there's no value in doing that. And I know when Louise read that, she says, well, I don't agree with that. I mean, if there are certain traumatic things that happen in your childhood or happen early on in your life, you need to address them before you can move on. And she felt very, very strongly about that. And you know what? I think there's value to what she says, because here's what it really comes down to. We talked about focus earlier. Well, the goal here is to train our focus. If you are working on training your focus and you keep getting drawn back to this past event and nothing you can't find any modality that drags you away from it, then yeah, you better go look at that event. Not to live there again, not to continue to live it over and over again, but to take the sting out of it, to take the power out of it, to basically embrace it long enough to say, well, you're not very powerful anymore, so you can toss it aside. And then you can start doing your exercises to train yourself to focus on what you really want to focus on. So I think what they said was correct in the book, but I also think that Louise's point is valid too. If you have something that's just absolutely addicting you to it, because that's really what that is, it's an addiction, it's an attachment that you aren't letting go of in any way, shape, manner, or form, then yeah, you better address it so that you don't live in it. That's the goal, to stop living in it.
Well, they said there's no value in doing that. And I would differ with that as well. Here's the way I would phrase it. I don't think it's necessary. In other words, and I have done this with clients plenty of times, is saying it's not really necessary to dig back and find the root of whatever it is. In other words, when I say it's not necessary, all I'm saying is there are people who have successfully overcome whatever without digging back.
Exactly.
So is it a necessary component? No, it's not necessary. But I wouldn't go so far as to say there's no value in doing it, because I've seen the experience, and I've experienced it myself, of connecting some event in the past to something that's happening now. And it's really felt like, oh my goodness, I never noticed that. That's why this has happened. And from there, it's always been a much simpler thing to get past it and to say, oh, well, that's what caused that. Okay, well, we can move on from this now. And so, yeah, I think I agree with that. With that assessment, is it necessary? Is it absolutely a necessary component of moving forward? No, I don't believe it is. But does it sometimes have value to figure that out? Well, I think sometimes it does.
Yeah. And the fact that it says, but there is no value in doing that, I think it's a case where we have to give a little bit of grace and forgiveness to Esther, because she's trying to translate all the stuff on the fly from Abraham as it's coming to her as quickly as she can so that Jerry can get it down on paper. Okay, she got one where the phrasing wasn't quite right. Let's just give her a little break on that one.
Yeah, here's the thing. Here's what I feel about all of this, and pretty much everything that I study and everything I read is that nothing's set in stone. I mean, these are all ideas that are being written by humans, and it's like, it's okay.
It is okay.
It's okay to have a different viewpoint. It's okay to ponder these things. It's okay to be uncertain of whether you exactly believe everything to a T. And I'm not just talking about Abraham. I'm talking about everything you learn in life, right?
That's right.
It's all right. It's all right to question things. It's all right to say, well, I'm not sure. But have an open mind and be flexible about what we're taking in. I think that's a good measure.
And it's also okay to follow the rule that the 12-step people do. Take the parts and use the parts that work for you and leave the rest behind. You don't have to take them with you. If they aren't working for you, then don't take them. Use the ones that work for you.
Yeah, it's just like the modalities we were talking about.
That's right.
It's like I can say, but Walt, you really should be journaling. It's very, very helpful.
I'm saying, right.
I can be totally convicted because maybe it's the best thing I ever did. And you're like, right. You know what? I can tell you 10 reasons why I don't want to do it.
And the number one reason is I can't read my own handwriting. That's the number one reason I don't want to journal. I don't want to have to write neatly. I hate writing neatly.
I noticed, I used to do calligraphy. I actually hand wrote someone's wedding invitations as a wedding gift. I don't mean I addressed the envelopes. I mean, every single invitation, right?
Geez.
My handwriting was stellar.
Yeah.
And then years of using a keyboard and not really writing as much. And when I went back to start doing more artwork again, more illustration and more calligraphy, oh my goodness. It was like, I was like such a beginner. It was terrible, but it only took a little while of being consistent. So I think we need to stop there because this next section, which I'm excited about, I think we're going to have to put it on the back burner until we come back again together next week on Tuesday.
Not unless we can get it all done in a minute and a half, because that's about what we have left. It does seem a little unrealistic. But this has been good. This has been good. Yes, speed reading. Okay, did you get that? There's going to be a quiz. Oh, yeah. But that's all right, because there's more to talk about next week, and that's why we do this anyway, because, it's fun to talk about these things. And it's how we get our daily dose of happy. Before we leave, I want to let people know who want to reach out to you. How do they find out, how do I reach Cindie in case I want to do a personal session?
They can find me online at cindiechavez.com. It's CindieChavez.com. And I would love for you to come find me and reach out. There's a contact form on the website. Just say hello.
Yeah, that's something we don't think about, is it? We could just say hello. I mean, it's not like I have to have the intention of signing up with this coach.
No, absolutely not. I love it when people reach out. It's just like on my mailing list when people will reply. When I send a mailing list, I send an email out to a whole bunch of people. I get a handful of replies, and it always is so great to hear someone just say, "Thank you, I appreciated it."
That's good. Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I enjoyed it as usual. The only sad part with you is that I always have to wait 6 days before we do it again. But
we'll do it again next Tuesday.
I'm definitely looking forward to it. I hope you are as well.
I am. All
right. Well, that's good. So we'll see you next time, and we'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.